Welcome to Remembering You, a space for slowing down, seeing again, and gathering the parts of yourself that the world asked you to forget.
Each week, we wander through stories, ancient, personal, and collective, to explore how perspective changes everything. How what we look at and how we look can open doors to who we truly are.
Take a breath, feel your feet.
You've arrived.
Let's begin remembering you.
Well, I feel like since you're sort of the expert in this field, you should start us off.
What? I'm the expert at being old?
Getting closer to dead.
Yeah. Yeah, every day.
I mean, technically, I'm older than you.
Every day. I love my gray hairs. And I remember that feeling. I had a very short beard, and it started to get a little bit of gray. And I was just like, oh, what are we going to do about this? And it was fascinating. First of all of my algorithms started pointing me towards different hair care products for men's beards.
Yep.
When you want to go back to your normal natural color. And so that was a thing. I remember probably in my 40s, it was like that realization of, oh, I used to be able to just twist and turn and move, and there was no thought of maybe I should stretch before I do this. And then all of a sudden, like, I should really stretch before I do this.
Yeah.
And especially ways that I carry my stress in my physical body, that was also a part of that learning curve. So, yeah.
Going from like invincible to maybe I should
Take care of myself.
go a little,
Think
be more
before,
thoughtful.
Yeah, think before I speak was something that cognitive was a part of my cognitive process, but stretch before you move, that was not. I blame my mom. Thanks, Mom. Stretch before you
Yeah,
move.
no need to teach that to a 5-year-old.
No, not at all, because they're like Gumby.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you're half plastic when you're a kid.
can move everywhere all of the time. And yeah, so aging,
Yeah. It's a thing.
losing my boyish figure. I mean, I have never had any fat at all.
Yeah, you're very long and lean.
I've always been very lean until the last few years, and I'm like, oh,
You are hardly fat though, but I know relative to
my body mass and the way that my metabolism is in the process of slowing down.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so
You're noticing it.
that is a thing.
Mm.
And then we have, it doesn't matter what awards in Hollywood or what show we watch or movie or who pops up in our Instagram feed. It's intense, the amount of work that people are doing on their whole self to try to look younger.
Oh gosh. It's I know, we as humans have been using things like makeup and, corsets and all kinds of inventions and creams and dyes and whatever for, long time. But with the emergence more recently of things like Mar-a-Lago face or folks clearly on lots of Ozempic for way too long. And there's a TV show that you and I watch, and we started the second season, and one of the main characters looked so shockingly different from the first season. Like both of us just kind of gasped at the screen because she looks so gaunt. Hollowed out cheekbones and her eye, like the temple. You can see the temples next to her eyes, like a cancer patient practically. Anyway, I often think that if we were to show photos of people that we look up to as a society, supposedly, to somebody from, say, 200 years ago, they would think we are mad, verifiably insane. Like they would wonder, what the hell is going on?
Because we look physically sick or ill.
Yeah,
and it's like,
or
you want
crazy.
you want to look this way?
Yeah, like a 75-year-old woman has wrinkles on her face. And man, wrinkles are normal. I think they're beautiful. Like it took me a little while to get to the place where I celebrate my wrinkles, but there is no part of me that wants Botox or fillers, or I don't dye my hair. And that it's not to poo-poo or shame people who do. Like I say that not as, oh, I'm better than, but more as like I get curious about what it means on the inside, what it's a reflection of. And that I think is the interesting conversation in a way.
Totally, 100%. Our modern culture treats aging as a problem to solve rather than a stage of life to enter.
Yeah.
I recently had one of our HR team members come into a meeting, and she said it's time for everyone to update their badge photos. And several people are like, well, I haven't had photos done in a while. And she's like, well, that's okay. Just take a good selfie that you like of yourself and send it to me. And I'm like, what? She's like, we'll run it through AI and give you a professional headshot. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Being a former photographer.
Yeah.
And so I grabbed a photo and I ran it through my favorite AI platform, and it did a crazy good job.
Mm-hmm.
And I was super surprised until I looked closer.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like I had tons of makeup on and had no definition to my face. Like I was just
flawless.
It was like in a way that I was just like, this looks, I don't look real.
Right.
And so I did something that I wonder if anyone has ever done before. I asked AI to redo it and give me smile wrinkles around my eyes. And it did it, and it looked great. And I was just like, oh, yeah, that's normal. Yeah. That's natural.
Yeah, when you smile, you have these delightful little creases.
That's my look. And I'm gonna keep that. So the contrast, though, is other cultures and traditions from around the world that didn't see aging as the enemy, but rather as something that was a part of initiation into the next season of life, and value in that season from everyone in the culture and everyone in the society. Like it wasn't just, oh, we've got our little old people club and we kind of find our own hierarchy, and then everybody else just thinks we're crazy old farts.
Right.
But from the young to the middle age to the old, like there was a recognition of there is something that has happened, and this is not to be ignored or passed over.
Yeah, I imagine something like experience and elderhood and wisdom and we grow up, I think, in a culture that very much values youth and the young rather than the other way around. Yeah.
Almost like no container other than an old folks' home. There's no container for becoming elderly.
Well, and I wouldn't even say that's a container for being, I mean, that's just like, It's so sad.
That is our Western,
that is the extent of our
the Western
it's just
container.
so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And why it doesn't terrify every single person who is not in a nursing home, knowing that that is like society's answer for where you will end up, boggles my mind.
Default.
It's like terrible.
Default.
Terrifying.
And it's also important, like we haven't even begun to open up the box, that being elderly does not mean or immediately equate to being an elder.
Oh God, no. Right. Yeah, no. Well, and I wonder if that kind of has something to do with why we don't value old people in our society. Like it's hard to find true examples of elders, people who are up in their years. And it's not the same as, oh, I worked in a career and I have 50 years of experience and I'm like an expert in whatever, but like life wisdom, like the things that keep us up at night, the deep problems of society, they tend not to be technical, or that they're more ephemeral, they're like interpersonal, and they're diplomatic, and they're harder to pin down. It's like the kinds of problems where there are no easy answers. And it's like there we need elders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure.
So you and I we're both kind of we are entering midlife for sure. I think we've kind of been in it for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years now. I feel curious. Did you have a midlife crisis per se, or what's your? I mean, we've talked a lot on this podcast about things that we've experienced, but particularly around aging and transition from like first half of life to second half of life. Like I know you've had your Lumen men's work, I imagine, is part of that, but I'm curious what comes up for you when you think about what it means to go through and experience that transition. Like, how do you know it was happening?
That's a great question, because I don't think we know that we're going through that process unless we have somebody reflect back to us who has already gone through it themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And whether that is through the experience of sitting down and reading depth psychologist Carl Jung, or through having an older friend or a mentor or a counselor or a minister or a neighbor, like watching somebody else's experience. There's part of being in the first half of life is you're focused on your building your ego and your identity and making a name for yourself. And so coming to a place where that no longer works or isn't what is to be done can be very disruptive and turn you upside down. I think in my experience, part of the preparation for initiation into the second half of life was literally spending years with people who had lived their lives and didn't have much life left. Hearing their stories, what they valued, what their regrets, the pain, the things that they cherished or treasured right before passing, and specifically speaking of hospice patients, that gave something to look for or to feel for, in my experience, of at the end, is this really going to be valued by me in my experience? And so as things shifted and changed, the way that I related to position and power and influence shifted, but it wasn't necessarily shifting for other people around me in my experience. And so people didn't know how to relate to me as those shifts happened. And it didn't mean anything to me to have a title. And it was something that from the outside, I had folks who were genuinely worried about, is Ryan okay and is he gonna make it? Because it was like all of a sudden the way of being just shifted. And for those that know my story, it shifted in some big ways with family and vocation and everything about me. So yeah, there was a lot of little pieces kind of building up to it, I think giving a framework and a perspective on what is life about, that as I went from one season into another, things kind of like had aha moments, such as 10 years ago, I would not have used language around my inner world with the modality of internal family systems. And yet I could watch people, hospice patients at the end of their life, going through a process of integration. And I never would have said that. I probably would have said they were making peace with themselves, but I didn't have that type of language. And then fast forward to the idea of how in shamanic traditions, there's this idea of soul retrieval. And it's actually a beautiful picture of, there was a part of myself, IFS, that I had to leave behind or had to go away to be safe in a moment of trauma. And then as time went on, it was time for that to come back. And that's the clear experience of shamanic soul retrieval and those practices from around the world that are all pointing to the same thing, that we here in the West have kind of made it very neat and clean, and yet its origins are squarely
It's old as humanity itself.
Yep, exactly.
So maybe just for a little context, can I explain what parts IFS is?
Yeah.
'Cause I don't think we've ever talked about it. So it's a therapeutic intervention. Richard Schwartz, I believe, is the kind of inventor, so to say, of it. And because he found that in his practice, his clients would talk about, this part of me feels this way. I think we've all experienced maybe, part of me really likes chocolate cake, but the other part of me really wants to not have a big fat belly. So, like, in that sense, we experience divisions within ourselves, but we're talking about parts of ourselves that, when we are sufficiently stressed, kind of get triggered. And, maybe we have a really angry part, or maybe we have a part of us that doesn't really value the work that we do, or, kind of like the things that we create in our life. Or maybe there's, like, I have a very strong rebellious part. And so the idea is we have these almost like little mini personalities within ourselves. And Schwartz kind of thought of it like an internal family system. It's just an internal parts of ourselves. We're all related, and some of them are managers, some of them are protectors, some of them are firefighters, and then the most painful, vulnerable parts are what he calls exiles. They, like, the parts of ourselves that were so deeply, it was just too overwhelming that we have shoved them out. And sometimes they emerge in moments of crisis and kind of take over our lives and wreak havoc. And so it's delightful how the the practice of IFS is so similar to shamanic soul retrieval. And so, here we Westerners think we're creating something new. And it's like, no, we've been doing this for forever.
From Siberia to Amazon to Mongolia, this idea that parts of our soul leave, not forever, not as punishment, but just simply as a way of protecting us is very much part of the idea of who we are and what's taking place on the inside. I don't know how many people that I hear use the term my inner child.
Yeah.
And that's where that comes from. Like they're interacting with a part of themselves that is wanting to come back when it's safe and when it's time. So I would have hospice patients who would make a statement like, I haven't felt like myself since ... happened.
Mm-hmm.
So as we're doing life review and we're talking about their experiences, I'm asking questions like, what are the things you're most proud of? What was something that, you delight in, or was a pivotal foundational moment in your experience? And sometimes we're talking about the mountaintop experiences, and then sometimes we're talking about the valley of the shadow of death and the pain and the suffering.
Yeah.
And so some of these ideas that connect into IFS or soul retrieval would come out like something's missing from my life. After this happened, I just felt like it was missing, or I just don't feel like I'm fully here. And so things around that were pointing to, okay, these are experiences that people have at the end of their life, and they're trying to make a cohesive, coherent whole of their experience. And so I wouldn't have used shamanic language or internal family systems language, but I was watching that take place as people were making peace with themselves and their loved ones and God. And it was giving me understanding that, okay, maybe right now I'm not experiencing my own soul retrieval, but this could be a possibility of being my experience in the future. And so then when things started to shift and move in my experience, it was like, oh, okay, I'm getting to do some of this work now versus waiting another 40 plus years to my deathbed.
No. Yeah. Yeah, ideally, we don't want to wait until it's too late. This life is so short. And the time, the way that life is so short hasn't, it's been speeding up ever since I kind of graduated from high school. I think just ever since turning into an adult, like every year just goes by faster and faster. But now being almost 50, there's like this new time horizon that's clicked into place about how short 50 years is. And then in my head, I will kind of feel what it's like to multiply that, say, times 10. It's like, okay, can I imagine 10 of my lives? 500 years sounds like forever, but if I make it, it's just 10 of what I've experienced so far, it's actually not. And to think of how much humanity has changed in just that tiny little slice of time, I don't exactly know what that's doing on the inside yet, but it's been an experience I keep having a lot about. My time horizon keeps it's going back hundreds and hundreds of years now, instead of maybe before it was just appreciating and kind of getting a perspective on what just 100 years means, or 20. So I imagine that's part of like having the perspective of, I think that's one of the gifts of aging. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Reflection. Reflection. It's the capacity to be able to look back. And obviously, if you don't have a lot to look back on, you don't have a lot to reflect on.
Yeah, right.
So
No.
pondering the meaning of the universe when I'm 12 years old
Or 20.
or
Yeah,
20
it's
or
just
even
not.
30
Yeah.
is not what there is to be done.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Years ago, I had a hospice patient, and as I was sitting bedside near the end of this person's life, picture his room in a nursing home, a steady buzz from the oxygen concentrator, fluorescent lights.
Oh God, it sounds terrible.
This was a man who worked hard his whole life. And when I asked him what his greatest pride and joy is, he talked about his kids. And he was so happy for who they were and their children. And he didn't understand that one of his grandkids had just come out as gay, but he loved them anyway. And there were things that he was confused about with family, of some choices, but when it came down to it, that was what he was most proud of, was the relationships in his life. And yet he was having some pretty big fears about growing up in a religious tradition and then having more doubts and fears about it not being true because of what science has revealed over the years and discrepancies in sacred text. And it all came down to, my family is the most important part of my life, what I'm most proud of, but I'm not sure where I'm going to go. And I have a lot of regrets about living my life with the single goal of being financially secure. And there was one point in the visit where he looked at me and he said, "Thank you for doing what you do." And I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, like, because it was just random. It was, he was having big thoughts and they were just kind of bubbling up. He went on to explain, he said, I can't tell you if I ever sat with a stranger and listened to their story and just let them give their deepest fears and talk about their highest joys. And he said, I really wish I would have done what you are doing right now, now at the end of my life, and seeing who I am and what I did, because I'm asking the question, did my life really matter? Which is wisdom from the aged in this time in our life when it's all about 5-second sound bites and not looking back at the whole and trying to understand what is life trying to teach me right now.
It's so easy to get caught in career and busy and tired and kids and sports, and then your parents age and then you have to take care of them, and then you're starting to age, and then it's like, I think when we're stressed and stretched really thin, I imagine it feels like almost a luxury to ask questions like that. And yet I think if we don't, life will kind of start to knock us upside the head or give us a little good old slug on the shoulder. And if we're still not listening, maybe it'll poke us on the back a little bit. I think life starts to present opportunities for us to slow down and ask and wonder and feel through some of those questions.
Mm-hmm. Folks really talk about their career in final days. They don't talk about what they owned or accomplished or the degrees that hung on their wall. They asked questions that were much more human, like, did I love well? Did I matter to the people around me? Did my life mean something?
Yeah.
And we can do that today without being morbid.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I get people all the time that hear what I do in the team that I'm on, hospice team, and they're like, oh, that is so depressing. And I'm like, it's very healthy to be confronted with mortality.
Yes.
And I don't have to do it on my own. I get to do it within the context of a team, and we all have conversations about what we want our deaths to look like.
Yeah.
Some conversations that would be a little bit uncomfortable if you were a fly on the wall listening to those, but we have really honest and frank conversations about the physical experience of dying, and then also, like, what is the setting? How do we want that to play out at the end? And are hospice workers angels? I think so. Or are they just wisdom carriers who get to go from one wise sage and support them in their transition and then to the next, and we just kind of carry and hold and assimilate and move forward with what the values of our culture might be missing, but what in the end ultimately is the most treasured in experience. Yeah. So here's a question for you. Not quite old woman.
Yes, that is I.
If you were able to design or create an elder for you.
Yeah, for me.
What would they look like? What would that elder look like?
Like physically? Or you mean, who are they?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I assumed that's what you meant. Yeah. I wasn't quite sure how literal I was supposed to take that.
Sure, they can ride a broom and have a witch's hat, if that's what you feel like. Or they can look like a forest fairy. However...
If I get to design myself an elder.
What does an elder look like in your...
Well, you're funny. The first thing that comes to mind is it's definitely not just one person.
Ooh. Let's get all biblical.
Did I get biblical?
Yes, the early church, there was the leadership style and system. It wasn't the CEO, megachurch pastor up front. It was a polarity of elders.
Like a council.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then thank you, King James Bible, who divided the elders being masculine and then the old women being feminine. Like, it wasn't elders that were masculine and feminine, men and women, but it was just the elders were the men and everybody else was the old women. Anyway, but that's not how it was.
Right.
Like, that was just a translation of the original Greek language, that there were older women and then there were older men. And the older men were working right alongside the older women, and they were helping and supporting people do real life.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. That's delightful. I did not know that about
a polarity.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, a polarity. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the first. Like, why don't a person can't embody elderhood truly? And so, like, I want a council. Like, I want this group, yes, men and women. And to, I suppose, I think that it's less about me personally wanting people that I can go. I mean, it's delightful, the idea that I can go sit on somebody's front porch and have a personal conversation and have them be an elder and, kind of sit at their knee and have them tell me stories and like that. That's lovely. And there's no reason that I can't have that in my life. But I think the deeper heartache is around looking out in society, whether it's government or politics or corporate life or whatever area of life, healthcare, just everywhere, education, and not finding elders. Like we're watching a TV show right now it's kind of a period piece, and it's based in the 60s and 70s. And there was a little segment of like Ronald Reagan giving a speech, and like I almost burst into tears, because not that I was a big fan of Reagan. I mean, I remember him, but I didn't really care about politics then. But to have the president of a country speaking words that are kind and like full, complete sentences. Like, that's the bar. Can I just get somebody who speaks in full, complete sentences? That is such an insanely... Can I just have a president who doesn't berate and call people names? Like, that is evil and cruel. And that kind of behavior exists. I mean, it's an epidemic. I mean, it's just... in corporate life, I would see leaders act like fucking children. And it's, or, I remember recently watching some clips from, like Davos happened fairly recently. And so, these are CEOs of some of the biggest, most powerful, and then government people too. And, you're watching their body language. Some of them are visibly, obviously high on something. Because like their movements are erratic, and their pupils are like the size of dinner plates. They look like crazy people. Or just the words that are coming out of their mouth, you're like, that's insane. Like that. So anyway, I don't know if it's always been that way, and I just didn't notice it so much in my 20s and 30s, or if there's something unique about this time that we're living through that it's just out on full display more. I don't know. But that's the deeper heartache when I think of what do I want for an elder. It's less about me and my own personal life and more like, can we have some better grown-up examples for the whole of society?
Yeah, there's a wisdom in wanting an elder, because an elder has life experience that, like, they're not going to spoon feed you.
Yep.
They know that there are only certain things that come into our awareness through time and toil and help me find another T. Time, toil, and treachery. I mean, let's go way out there.
Well, that's how it is, though.
It's my personal experience that gives perspective that equals wisdom of eldership. And there's no shortcut. And so to have people who are not trying to give shortcuts, whether it's shortcut to the front of the line or in life experience, like I think of one of my elders, Bob, and the way that he masterfully plays the simple fool. Like, he will say things and he will do things that are so profound And it's in such a way that if you're not listening to what is being said below what he's saying, you're just going to dismiss him as, oh, that's just Bob, you know?
Yeah.
And I've had people in our circles kind of do that. And it's like, oh, you don't see, and you don't feel, and you don't understand really what this is all about, because he is someone who has walked the path and understands things that you can't know unless you have experienced it. Like, it's not something you can read in the book. And so having those type of people in our lives that are cultural disruptors, like in our youth, we would refer to certain people as, oh, they're just an old stick in the mud. And the reality is that they may be, or they may be pointing to something that's in the mud that we really need to stop and pay attention to.
I think that's part of the wisdom of the fool, or the joker is not quite the right word. It's got too many cultural ideas along with it, but it
Court jester.
Yeah, that it's
disruptor.
Yeah.
The holy fool.
Yes.
Is how Father Richard Rohr puts it in the way that he frames some of the archetypes.
Well, and I think their brilliance comes through the way that they are easy to dismiss unless you know how to pay attention. And it's like their message lands in those who have the eyes and ears to see and hear. And for those who don't, so in a way, it's like a secret that's out in plain sight, which is just such a delightful paradox. Because, early in life, we're very chest puffed out. I need everybody to see and recognize and give me accolades. And, I need the gold star and I need the title. And I do think there's a really incredible wisdom that comes with the unassuming silliness or quietness or whatever shape it takes later in life.
Something that I've noticed with hospice patients, and it's not as glaring with men, it is with ladies. So you get these little old ladies who have gone to church their whole life, and at the end of their life, they are processing what I would say Ram Dass was poking at or pointing at when he says to love the dark thought.
Yeah.
And in a way of wisdom, there is an integration or a welcoming or a making space for everything that fits in the whole, including the dark thought. And one patient that I remember from the past, she was absolutely mortified at the thoughts, the intruding thoughts that she was having in her experience. And she's bedbound, she's able to read her Bible, she's able to pray, and she's having these thoughts. And she was so ashamed of these thoughts that she was having, she wouldn't even tell me what they were.
I was just going to ask if you, can you give us an example of what she considers a terrible, intrusive thought?
She would not.
That's fascinating.
She would not, because she felt so broken and evil for having these thoughts. And we would have conversations about how there are experiences that she had in her life that she never was able to feel the anger or the depression. Like, she wouldn't let herself feel some of those feelings because she grew up in an era when she had to be the happy little girl.
Of course.
And she could not.
And the nice, polite, grown woman.
And she had to be congenial and
Yep.
always have a smile and always
Yep.
have a kind word. And so now she's finally at the end of her life in her late 90s, and she's feeling everything that is deep down inside, and it's coming to the surface. And there is a wisdom in her facing it and struggling with it.
That was so important.
Of course, from a Christian perspective, there is such a treasure trove in the scriptures, if you know where to go, to help someone who is working through that process where they're able to find peace with themselves and do combat with the devil as he is firing his fiery arrows into her sweet, perfect, and beautiful heart. And she found peace at the end.
I mean, and isn't that true of Jesus's experience? You know, he went through, did he do 40 days in the,
40 days in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Fasting. Yeah, the temptation.
And the Buddha, same thing, same kind of story.
Yep.
I assume they're probably not the only two spiritual. I guess what I'm saying is I believe this is a universal human experience. Like we all
have to face our demons.
Yeah, because we all have them.
It's not literally a devil sitting on my shoulder.
No.
It's everything that has caused pain and suffering that I haven't yet been able to look at and work through. Yeah. In my experience.
And I think too, it's not just our personal content, but also like when our eyes start to open up and we see things more clearly. Like, for example, I think a lot of people are having a real hard time trying to figure out how to reconcile everything that's happened with the Epstein files. Or, I mean, pick any kind of corporate scandal. or I think I heard recently that Cesar Chavez, sexual assault, rape, father of multiple children that were illegitimate and hidden. And so we have, like, how do we, as just a collective human species, reconcile that kind of darkness?
There is no reconciling it. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, it's like, what do you do with it?
And yet we have to do something with it because we are meaning-making creatures.
Yeah.
And I need a category for it.
Or just a way to, even if it's beyond sense making, it's like, I've got to have a place to put it, I suppose, or just a way to relate to it, as opposed to, I mean, we can ignore it and deny it, but I think to your point, eventually, if, you could be in your 90s on your deathbed trying to battle all of these terrible intrusive thoughts, and that I don't necessarily think that there's like a better way to, whether you do it in your 40s or you do it in your 90s. I mean,
I don't know if you can do it in your 40s.
To that degree.
To the extent that she is, because she was still squarely in her experience or the frame of how she looked at the world. Like, until that left, she couldn't.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Because you still got to be in the world when you're in your 40s. Yeah.
And so at the end of her life, she's spending 10 or more years, a lot of solitude, a lot of silence, a lot of being alone. And that tends to make us crazy.
Phew.
We project and say, oh, she's crazy. She thinks she's having bad thoughts. And those, quote, bad thoughts were actually pointing towards experience in her younger years that she wasn't able to come to a place of accepting that was her experience and not rejecting or trying to push or force. So in my experience, I would say that a lot of our way of dealing with change through the aging process cuts out the possibility that we could actually have a great deal of growth and healing and come to a place of peace within ourselves. But because we're trying to do all of the age-defying things, we and worshiping youth, we get in a place of looking back, not in a way that is with health and wisdom and kindness, incorporating and reconciling our experience, but it's trying to hold on to or recreate or
like we're grasping at what was.
Yeah. Yep. What do I have to do to look 20 years younger?
Oof. Oh, that is just a special kind of hell. I mean,
so when that is the focus, you can't look back because you've idolized your youth when all of your trauma happened.
Yeah.
And you're like, because my skin was such and such, or because I had this shape of a body, and like, that's what I want to get back to. And we're missing the fact that, there's a lot below the surface that is actually asking to be looked at.
Well, I mean, that's one good way to avoid it is to focus instead on what we see on the outside as opposed to looking at what's on the inside. Yeah. And there again, like there are not very many good cultural example. Like we don't see adults dealing with their shit in a, whether it's in a movie or our favorite TV shows or on the political stage, to have somebody say, oh gosh, I made a mistake. I'm really sorry. What we get are these non-apologies that are put through a PR firm. And so it's like, that's the norm. And so it's hard as I think just an everyday person, or if you had parents who didn't ever deal with their shit either. It's like, that's just what's normal. Yeah. It's changing though.
Slowly.
Yeah.
Slowly.
There's little pockets.
When I hear people say 60 is the new 80. No, I said that backwards.
Yeah, 80 is the new 60.
when I hear people say that 80 is the new 60, like that's moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a recognition of, okay, we're living longer, and it gives us permission to shift because there is a recognition of there are things that are changing. I went to a men's retreat last year that focused on the experience of male diminishment. So like when as a man, your whole life has been about what you can fix, what you can provide, how hard and how long you can fuck. Like what do you do when that no longer, like you can take testosterone all day long and be the Energizer Bunny as a man, but that also has effects on your experience and is not necessarily the best for a man later in life, his experience. And so what do we do when all of that starts to shift and to change? And how do we find love and acceptance within ourselves, for ourselves, in the midst of physical, mental decline? And it was fascinating to sit in a circle with men who were in their late 60s, talk about the things that they are experiencing with diminishment as no longer being a virile man, who did all kinds of things macho and now is experiencing muscle mass and is not as clear and sharp, and things are going by the wayside. And there's a feeling sometimes that I've heard people talk about that they feel that they just don't have anything to contribute because they're not at their prime and optimal level of productivity. So in our experience, and I can speak from the man's side of things, our culture doesn't support or encourage or welcome aging at all.
Quite the opposite.
No, not at all. It's how do we hold on to this? So I'm curious, my love, what is the woman's experience of cultural aging in the West?
Yeah.
Do you want to write a book?
No, not about that. There was where is it? So, obviously perimenopause has been kicking my ass, for years now. And now that I'm like 5 years into it and I understand what's happening more, it's a hell of a lot easier to navigate. And which is just one of those things where it's like, why is this a vacuum in our culture? Like, women have been going through this transition in my culture. There are many, 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 many millions before me, and yet we're all just like doing it quietly in silence, and that's definitely changing. Thank goodness. And even within the medical community, but it's so recent. Like, it's also just within the last 5 years. So recent. And as I'm experiencing my own journey, like, I'm noticing the way the medical professionals that I'm seeing, I can feel the way that they're figuring it out too. Like, we as a society, I think, are waking up to how do we support women who are going through this transition medically, yes, but also, and then I imagine too, what's going to be built takes longer, the emotional support and the psychological support and the kind of cultural, like, how now do we think about this transition? Not to say that I think the West is suddenly going to look at postmenopausal women as some sage to hold up in reverence. Like, we're still squarely in the age of Botox and Ozempic and fillers. But I do have plenty of peers, both in my personal life and then that I can see online, who are aging in a way that is like, there's no shame in it. And it's actually something to be celebrated. I found
which is a reclaiming of something that was a part of cultures.
Well, that's the way it's been for many. For a lot of human history, for most of, save for patriarchy is a bit of a modern invention in a lot of ways. Not to say that matriarchy ruled. I think it, for most of human history, like, we have to talk going back tens of thousands of years. So hunter-gatherer kind of days. It was equal. Men and women were equal to one another. There was no patriarchy. There was no matriarchy. And
according to anthropologists.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so for 90% of human history, we were equal to one another, or at least, we'll just leave it at that. 90% of human history, we were equal to one another. And then with the advent of agriculture and the Industrial Revolution, and, now we get more complex societies. And for whatever reason, the psychopaths won, I suppose, because they were more violent. And now, men are the stronger of the two sexes, and so if one's going to dominate, it's probably going to be the one that's stronger.
My heart's bigger than your heart. Ha ha ha.
But in more indigenous societies, when women made that transition, it was something very, like, it was cool. Like, it was, you were recognized as now having enough perspective and experience that you had elevated positions in society. You were looked up to.
I think that's so important. And it goes back even further when a young girl came into her womanhood.
Right.
And
right.
that was celebrated and honored. And so it
wasn't seen as shameful or
weird. It was a transition. It was a threshold. It was this experience of initiation from no longer a little girl.
Yeah.
Now I'm a woman.
Yep.
And a vital and important part of culture and society. And so to not put somebody out to pasture when they are past their childbearing years, and to recognize that there's wisdom and experience of medicine and family, and like even here in the United States, there were indigenous peoples that it was the older, wiser, elder women in the culture that chose or selected the head of the tribe. That was the importance and the reverence. And so it was spiritual, and it was family, and it was cultural. Like all of these things were a part of what it meant to be a woman and getting old.
Like, I think all of us, we could do this really simple thought experiment and just ask ourselves, how would our society be different if the grandmas of this society were the ones who were choosing the CEOs of our companies and the president of the United States? Like, if all the nanas had to get together and make that decision, what a world. Sign me up.
I have a hospice patient right now, a hardcore MAGA family.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting with her in her living room last year, and on the news, it's President Trump. And she looks at me and she said, I voted for him, but I would never do that again. And I'm just like I do not take political sides at all. As a hospice chaplain.
No.
I smile and nod. If I'm in a Democrat's house, they think I'm a Democrat.
Yep.
If I'm in a Republican's home, they think I'm a Republican. Like, I am Mr. No Man's Land in the middle. And I could not help but just bust out laughing and look at her and say, I think you are very wise in your way of looking at things. Yeah, things would be different if all the nanas got together and said, nope, it's obvious. His mama still makes his bed.
There's interestingly personality research on like what changes when we enter midlife, later in life.
Oh, I've heard men talk about this. Husbands. I know what this is. Pick me. Let me answer. Mean, angry, hateful.
So, large.
And I say that, I'm not joking. That's what I've had people tell me.
Well, so here's what the research says.
What's the research?
During midlife, many people become, bullet number 1, less concerned with social approval. Bullet number 2, more comfortable expressing disagreement. Bullet number 3, more self-directed in decision-making.
Sounds like self-actualization to me. I'm all for that.
So yeah, I imagine for a man who's been in a marriage and she's always been accommodating and agreeable and never said a bad word, and all of a sudden now she's got an opinion and she's telling you no. She don't give a flying hoot what you think anymore.
What? Boundaries?
Yeah.
Came online?
Yeah, exactly.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's delightful.
And it makes sense from a evolutionary perspective, because as the mother of the offspring, like, it's important from an evolutionary perspective that she is able to make everybody happy.
Oh, right.
For like the survival of the babies.
When you are raising the children. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. But then now
you don't have to worry about the dad eating the babies. So now you can be like,
well, and you no longer are of childbearing age. And so you're no longer in competition with all of the other women. Like, so there's also that, like, I got to be nice so he stays and, you know, raises these kids together. And now we're no longer in that competitive pool. It's like we get to just be who we are. I guess if there's this one woman I follow on Instagram, she calls herself a mean, horrible woman.
What?
She's like, and she talks in this very flat, monotone voice, no makeup. And she's like, I'm a mean, horrible woman and I make content for other mean, horrible women. And then she'll just talk about just whatever. And I know it's a caricature. It's an expression, I think, of this transition that, because it's fucking exhausting as a woman to accommodate everyone else. And like, I remember my dad's second wife, so my dad had children. He was having another family when I had Bianca. So her uncles are like right her age, same age. And so we'd go over there and, you know, she'd cook dinner, of course. And she would sit at the table with us, kind of. You know, she'd kind of sit down and we'd all get started. She would not serve herself a plate. And then she was usually getting up and doing things. And she would literally just eat whatever scraps were left over. And that's just how she ate her meals. And it would drive me nuts. I'm like, because then I'm like, well, I got to make sure I leave like some potatoes in the bowl and another piece of meat on the plate. But of course, poor thing, she was surrounded by men who were all hungry and they were just eating everything on the table. And I'd watch her not eat some meals. And bless her, I hope she is finding I hope she is connecting to who she is now, later in life, now that her boys are grown and now that her and my dad are divorced. But
the first church that I pastored was there for 120 plus years. Small little rancher, farmer, northern Burnett County, northwest of Austin, about an hour and a half. And these folks, some of them had family farms, been out there for several generations. Whenever we had dinner on the grounds at the church, it was fascinating because the women would get up and would make plates for their husbands.
Oh, gosh.
And then serve their husbands. And then the men would be sitting on one side, of course, together, because they're all shooting the breeze. And then all the ladies would sit on the other side. And here comes this young, uppity pastor who's 25 years old, newly married. And I'm just like, number one, my wife is not fixing my plates. I will fix my plates. And number two, I'm not sitting with the men. I'm going to sit with my wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are ways in which we look at the value of an individual based upon if they have a Y chromosome or not. And that just doesn't make any sense. Like, just not computing.
So yeah, so I think the female experience in midlife is, you know, we have a different kind of diminishment, so to say, than men. It's a hell of a lot more chaotic, just from a hormonal perspective. I don't know. I don't think I imagine emotionally, psychologically, it's just 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I don't think that women necessarily have it harder, other than we're just in a patriarchal society, and so there's that hurdle, and we're not, and so therefore, you know, we're not valued, we're not seen in the same way. But also, men growing up in a patriarchal society comes with its own host of challenges and difficulties as well, and so to say that one has it easier than the other, I think is silly. But what I do know is it is certainly the most intense experience I've ever been through in my life. And it's hard to tease out what is perimenopause and what was my daughter dying. Like, having those two things kind of happen simultaneously is a little, I got a double dose. But I'm starting to find some appreciation for the gifts that are unfolding. I don't quite know what they are yet, but it's definitely an initiation.
I think it's important for us to name that no matter what your experience is your familiar.
What do you mean?
My familiar gives me a sense of belonging, purpose, identity. And if my familiar changes and I'm in a place of unfamiliar,
yeah,
then I'm going to experience a disruption.
Yeah.
And disruption that is taking away my familiar is also going to touch my identity, my meaning-making system, how I make sense of experience. And so no matter if I am a man or a woman, it doesn't matter, whatever our experience is.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
As it changes, there will be disruption and it will be painful and unwelcomed. And there is a way that someone who has lived life and here's the term, they have aged with grace. I have never heard that used in referring to someone who is angry and bitter and vengeful.
Right.
Like it's somebody who has done their work and found peace with themselves and the world around them.
Yeah.
They don't have an axe to grind. They don't have something to fight over and fight about. That doesn't mean that they're not an activist in justice and speaking truth to power. It means that they're able to do it in a way that doesn't make them bitter and resentful.
Without a chip on their shoulder, so to say. Yeah.
And so in my experience, from what I've witnessed over the years of people at the end of their life with aging, and then my personal experience, as Leonard Cohen's song puts it, the anthem, the cracks are how the light gets in.
Yeah.
And I could say that in my experience, the pain is how the grace came in. I could say that there is a gift of gracefully aging or coming into my own in a new season that is only realized through the pain not being transferred, but transformed into something generative in my experience.
I think I want to end this by asking you.
Yes, I want to grow old with you. I want to sit on the front porch on rocking chairs and watch the sunset together. When I can't ride off into the sunset on my horse, like John Wayne, alone. Solo monad off into the distance.
You're silly. Well, it's good. That's what I want too. I think you've heard that question. People ask, what would you tell yourself if you were, 18? What would you tell your, 16-year-old self that you wish nobody had told? I'm curious. I kind of want to flip it a little bit, though. Imagine you are in your 80s. What would your 80-year-old self tell you now?
It all comes out in the wash. Don't sweat the small stuff. There's nothing to worry about. It's all good. I am perfect now in my 80s, just like I am perfect in my late 40s.
That's great.
Yeah, I never thought of it from that way. Good job. Do you want me to reciprocate and ask you the same question?
Ooh, sure.
My love,
Yeah.
your 80-year-old self has a message for your 40-something self. What is that message today?
It's funny. It's more like a feeling. It's not a, it's interesting. There's not language. It's like this, I feel a warmth in my chest and it's also in my belly, but there's this solidity. You had said earlier how an elder isn't going to spoon feed you, but they will
meet you where you are.
Yeah, like they'll look at you with eyes that have understanding and compassion in them, but they're not going to make it easier for you. And so that's kind of what I'm getting. It's like she's not saying anything to me. She's just kind of giving me that look, like kind of like it's all fine. It's all fine and there's nothing to worry about. Which it's funny how we know that already and then we forget.
Absolutely. Yep. We do.
It's hard to remember when things are really painful or stressful. Feels like the furthest thing from the truth. It's an honor to get to grow old with you.
Aww.
It really is.
Well, may we be reminded today and in the future that elderhood is not simply old age, but it is wisdom in service of the community, the greater whole, and a collective welcoming, a movement from achievement to stewardship, from productivity to presence. Thank you, my love.
Thank you.
Till next time.
We'll see you then.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye.